Oh, don't worry. As long as the plaza becomes pedestrian friendly, it'll be all safe, all hunky-dory. Everybody is going to be singing Kumbaya down there on the plaza. Welcome in. Happy Tuesday morning. It's great to be here after a Labor Day weekend on KCMO Talk Radio, the unofficial end of summer. You can no longer wear your white in there, fellas, right? That's the rule. The dress code is, after Labor Day, no more white.
Yeah.
Not that John wears a lot of white around here, but if he did, I'd say
I
no
need
more
to
white.
get a cream-colored Chiefs jersey. Beige, eggshell.
And Mark's already got his Chiefs gear on, the hat, the shirt. He's ready for football season.
Oh, yeah, it's all Chiefs this week.
That's exactly right. Game, of course, is coming up in 2 days out at Arrowhead against the Lions. You know what I'm getting sick of, though? I'm getting sick of coming in here after a holiday weekend and talking about how many people got shot and killed. I feel, right? I mean, every time we have a long weekend, it's like, geez, I feel like I start off the show talking about homicides. I don't want to do it, but I mean, the news is the news. You heard John at top of the hour on the news. You had 4 people killed over the weekend in 3 different shootings.
You ask me my phone number, I may say 816-474-8477. You're going to have to stop me because obviously I've said Crime Stoppers Tips hotline number numerous times this calendar year.
You have, unfortunately. And give us that number one more time, the Tips hotline.
816-474-8477,
All right.
a.k.a. TIPS.
There you go. That's the Tips hotline. Sad to say. I mean, in no way trying to make light of this, but goodness gracious. I mean, I was thinking about it yesterday as I'm getting ready for the show, and I'm like, every long weekend we come in here, we talk about how many shootings happen. And the one on the plaza did not result in somebody getting killed, but what you had was a 14 and 15-year-old involved in a shooting down on the plaza. 14-year-old is recovering from being shot allegedly by a 15-year-old. And what is the response? Well, for the most part, it's been silence from people on the plaza when it comes to the businesses down there. What have I said for the better part of 2 weeks since this conversation's come up about how to fix the plaza? The city council is considering making the plaza pedestrian friendly, shutting down Nichols Road, trying to make it pedestrian friendly and thinking, hey, if we do that, less cars, more people out and about, that'll be good for it. It might be, but I'll tell you right now, I mean, you got kids shooting kids on the plaza. I think we got some bigger problems. And this was a bad summer when you talk about crime on the plaza. You have the Shake Shack that decided to shut down early on summer weekend nights because they were having issues down there. There were a slew of other incidents that took place. We had a lady call into the show last week when I was talking about this, and she said that there were shots fired at a sushi restaurant down there, and it never got attention in the news. No one ever covered it. It was never brought up. She said her daughter was there as gunshots went off in the sushi restaurant, and it never became a news story. So for all the news stories we had down there, how many just didn't get covered? How many didn't get picked up? So the notion that we're a pedestrian walkway away, if we just shut down Nichols Road to cars, everything would be great, is just a farce. And unfortunately, it was proven over the weekend. Once again, I wish it weren't the case, but it was over the weekend once again proven. Now, Fox 4 talked to some folks down there on the plaza yesterday about the violence down there. And by the way, I give credit to these residents for being willing to talk on camera about this because a lot of people are not going to want to do it for fear of, I don't know, the woke mob coming after them. But here's some of the local reaction on Fox 4 over the weekend.
Well, I fear for, the safety of pedestrians and just people down here wanting to enjoy the plaza. And I have teenage sons that I would not feel comfortable with them down here after 6 p.m.
Okay, so that's one lady pointing out that she fears for the people coming down there trying to enjoy themselves. Yeah, obviously, right? And then also, as she notes there, she's got kids. And she wouldn't let her kids down there after 6 p.m. Gosh, there's a novel concept, right? Taking care and keeping an eye out on your own damn kids. So good for her.
Third day in another incident where the safety of people visiting the Country Club Plaza is top of mind.
Just absolutely terrible. I moved to Minneapolis almost 30 years ago, but even compared to what the plaza is now compared to when I was a youngster is completely changed.
It hits me to my core. You know, any loss of life, potential or actual, so a homicide or non-fatal shooting, is a tough moment, but it's particularly devastating when it involves babies in many ways. We can no longer afford to just turn a blind eye to the literal extinction of generations of young black men, and this is what we're up against.
Okay, that is Melissa Johnson. She works for Mayor Quinton Lucas there at the very end. She was the one making the commentary about, we can't put up with this, we can't do this, and we can't continue to live like this, and I agree. But what has the answer been from City Hall? The answer from City Hall has been to pass gun ordinances. The answer from City Hall, which, by the way, they did a couple of weeks ago, has been to reinforce federal laws, like preventing minors from buying ammunition and preventing people from turning their guns essentially into automatic weapons and switches, is what they're calling them, what they call them. Those are the ordinances that they passed, yet here you have a 14-year-old and a 15-year-old on the plaza shooting each other. I guess the ordinance is not a one-size-fits-all approach. I guess the ordinance does not create an environment that magically just prevents young people from doing things like this. Maybe, I don't know, call me crazy, but maybe it has something to do with the fact that these people are already breaking laws, and if you're a 15-year-old willing to shoot a 14-year-old, you're not too concerned about the new ordinance that the Kansas City City Council passed. Once again, it's hard to get in the mindset of a criminal because I'm not one, but I would like to think that this is not going to be the thing that I know how we'll finally deter them. We'll pass a city ordinance that doubles down on a federal law. Gosh, I can't believe we didn't think of that earlier.
Or maybe we could dismiss some civil disobedience for other people earlier in the year and give the wrong signal as well.
Oh, yes, that's right.
See, I don't overlook that,
Yes.
And we've talked about how the police made the call to the mayor and how that all went down.
Now, you're talking about when the guys were let off the hook in 2020?
Correct.
Yeah.
We had the notion that we could go ahead and go down to Plaza and raise hell.
Yes.
And then get excused from that by the city council.
Yeah, that's right. That's
and now
right.
They want to. Well, this time we really mean it, mister.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yes, that is over 3 years ago now. But that is back when we had the riots on the plaza and the city council basically dropped all the charges against people who were, just peacefully protesting on the plaza. Despite the fact that they were handed tickets, they were cited, they were arrested by KCPD. Yeah, that's a great point, John. Don't discount what that does to the mindset of individuals who are inherently pushed towards a life of crime. And I know it's 3 years ago now, but it can't be overlooked. 913-408-7710. 913-408-7710. I'm going to welcome you in as we kick off the show here on a Tuesday morning on KCMO Talk Radio. We're going to talk to Bill Teal, the president of the Kansas City Restaurant Association, what he's hearing from restaurateurs down there on the plaza because nobody's speaking up. That'll be at 8 o'clock. So this will be a big part of the show, unfortunately, this morning, and we're going to dive into this more with you. Also, a shooting in another part of the country involving the police and whether or not this is going to be George Floyd 2.0. I don't think it is, but we'll get into that, plus you, coming up next.
Well, I fear for, the safety of pedestrians and just people down here wanting to enjoy the plaza. And I have teenage sons that I would not feel comfortable with them down here.
That audio courtesy of Fox 4. Happy Tuesday morning. Welcome in on KCMO. But unfortunately, after another holiday weekend, crime in Kansas City is leading all the headlines, including on the plaza where a 14-year-old was shot by a 15-year-old. Sad to say. And the 14-year-old is expected to survive. But I'm exhausted, as I imagine many of you are, having to sit here after a holiday weekend and talk about how many people shot each other. And then hear just the cluelessness from the people in charge saying, gosh dang, you state of Missouri, you bunch of bums, you gun-loving, gun-toting freaks. If only you didn't love your guns, we could solve this problem. Yeah. Well, you guys keep passing different ordinances. Keep trying on that. Nothing's going to happen. You're going to wonder why. And then you're going to be sitting here saying to yourself, geez, maybe it's not all about the obsession with gun violence. 913-408-7710. Scott's in Northeast Kansas City. Hey, Scott, good morning. You're on KCMO. What's happening?
Good morning. A lot of points on this. I've given a lot of thought, so I'm going to bullet point them as fast as I can. We got not a lot of time. 1970s, early 70s, they tried this pedestrian thing at the plaza in Springfield, Missouri, because they built a Battlefield Mall that sucked the life out of the plaza. Tried the pedestrian thing. It was a massive failure. They went back to vehicular. So I don't see it working here either.
Okay.
The plaza is under attack from a lot of different things. Restaurants is COVID. Retailers is Amazon. The movie theater, I believe, is shut down, and that's for you can name a lot of reasons that happened.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually at the plaza at a fast food place, won't name it, with my niece. I was taking her to a movie, and a severe brawl broke out with a bunch of teenagers. All chaos would happen, and that doesn't leave people's memories. And things change. Demographics change. Situations change. This happened in the Buckhead, not the Buckhead, but the Little Five Points in Atlanta, and a place lot like the plaza in Los Angeles, and both of them eventually changed and suffered and didn't come back. And I predicted this a long time ago on a different call-in venue, and I got yelled at. But this is happening.
It is.
And it's the plaza is going to change. It's not going to be the jewel of the Kansas City anymore, and people have to wake up, smell the coffee, or wake up and smell the toilet water and get their heads out of the pot.
That's what they got to do.
Change.
Scott, that is well said. I'm glad you wrote down your bullet points there. Very good job by you. Well done there, my man.
Such a nice man.
He got it out of right out. I mean, I agree with everything he said there. Scott pointing out that, yes, the plaza is under attack from a lot of different factions, socially, economically. All that is true. There's other great places to shop. There's other great places to go out to eat. We know all that, and we've talked a lot about that, but he's right to point all that out. But then when you factor in Kansas City, Missouri specific issues, going back to 2020, the rise in crime and homicides, the decrease in police officers, not having any presence of law enforcement as well, all those things factor into the equation. And you have this perfect storm of, yes, what was once a crown jewel, now looking for a lifeline and trying to figure out what's next and trying to just stay afloat. I mean, on top of that, this was over the weekend from the Kansas City Business Journal. Country Club Plaza defaults on nearly $300 million in debt. So, I mean, they're going through that right now. That was the headline in the Kansas City Business Journal from over the weekend. They write here, the plaza's ownership. Oh, I just got blocked from trying to read it here because it's a subscriber-based thing. What does Fox 4 have? Plaza's ownership, 50-50 joint venture between two organizations, defaulted on $295 million balance of its acquisition loan. The owners are in negotiations, trying to basically figure out a way out of this thing. So, I mean, that's just, oof, it's ugly, really ugly. Now, speaking of ugly, if you don't know about this story in Ohio, you may want to keep an eye on it. I don't think this is going to be George Floyd 2.0, God willing. I just, gosh, I can't imagine the country going through something like that right now. But 21-year-old Takia Young, if you don't know this story, Blendon Township, Ohio, she was shot by a police officer. The allegations were she was coming out of a Kroger's shopping food store, grocery store, and she was accused of shoplifting. So there were two cops in the parking lot who confronted her about it. One cop is on the driver's side. The other one is standing in front of the car in the parking lot. She is pregnant. And one of the officers ends up shooting the woman through the windshield and killing her. And her unborn child also died. And it's getting national attention, as you imagine that it would. Yes, she is black and the officer is white. Both the officers were white. The one that shot her was white. And here's what it sounded like if you were listening to it. If you haven't seen the body cam footage, this is what it sounded like.
Out of the car.
7 back in service, 1828.
Get out of the car. Then get out. No, then get out.
Get out of the car.
Get out of the car.
Get out of the car.
So what happens is Takia Young was told 10 times to get out of the car. And then she starts driving her vehicle through the parking lot. So one of the cops is standing in front of her. One is standing to the side of her on the front door side. And she starts trying to pull out of her parking spot into the cop. And that's when he fires the shot through the windshield and ultimately kills her. Now, people will say that she was driving, using her car as a weapon into the police officer. If you watch the body cam footage, it's not like she pounds on the gas. And I'm not excusing somebody who allegedly, of course, had stolen something, who was told 10 times to get out of the car by the police and didn't. But if you watch the body cam footage, you're not going to sit there and say, boy, she just jammed that thing in the drive and pounded her foot to the pedal at 60 miles an hour. And that's where this is bringing up protests that took place last night in Columbus, Ohio. I don't believe, based on the facts that we have right now, this has any chance of being George Floyd 2.0 or anything like that. It shouldn't be. But just know that there are people who are going to want to turn it into that. And, of course, the shooting remains under investigation. News is coming up here in 90 seconds on KCMO Talk Radio. We'll be back with some trouble in paradise. Oh, no. Who is it? It's coming up on KCMO. You know, for all the hot garbage the Kansas City Star publishes, this really doesn't bother me. This is the kind of stuff I actually don't mind reading on their website. It's not local news, but I'm okay reading it because it should be a case study one day on how to screw up your life. So Prince Harry is desperate to repair his marriage as he and Meghan Markle are supposedly living separate lives. That's right. Happy post-Labor Day Tuesday morning on KCMO. I saw it on the Star's website. I'm like, oh, okay. So this is why sometimes I know when, Prince Harry thinks he's the bad boy, thought he was the bad boy. He's going to get with the American Meghan Markle. Dude, we all saw this coming from a mile away. Even those of us who are not even close to being within 6 degrees of separation of Prince Harry could see what this was all about, right? This guy got fleeced. What this story is, and I'll get to the details of it here in a second, it is a classic example of how when your entire relationship is built on trashing somebody or somebody's, in this case, a royal family. Once the media, once Hollywood has used you for all you're worth, they will spit you out. They will get rid of you. They will toss you to the curb, and you will be meaningless because your whole relationship was defined on destroying your own family. And once you've said all there is to say, nobody has any use for you anymore. And Prince Harry's learning this one the hard way. So here's the story. It says here, for 7 years, it was Prince Harry and Meghan Markle against the world. By the way, they did this to themselves. Quote, they used to be inseparable, but this summer things started to change, says a source. While he was in London in June for his court case, she, Meghan Markle, was reportedly attending parties back home without him. By mid-August, he was gone again, this time for a charity polo match in Singapore with a quick stop in Japan, while she caught a Taylor Swift concert in Los Angeles and celebrated a belated 42nd birthday over a meal with friends. They seem to be spending more and more time apart. It's not a good sign, said the source. Another troubling sign, Meghan Markle has not been seen wearing the custom triple diamond engagement ring that Harry designed himself. Oh, Harry.
Such a nice man.
Sparking rampant speculation that after struggling with increasingly negative public opinion and failing business ventures, the Sussexes are headed for a split. A source says Meghan has claimed the ring is being repaired, but she's been spotted on multiple occasions without it since May, and she has to know that not wearing it would cause divorce rumors to explode. Some people think she did it on purpose to send a subtle message to Harry that she's not happy in their marriage. Well, we got to get her to bring that ring over to Diamonds Direct. That's what we got to do. They'll take care of that. Not going to have to wait 3 months to get a ring fixed if that's what really is going on. The article goes on to note it's not a secret that they've been having some growing pains. It's definitely been a rough year. So we could have all told you from a mile away this was going to happen. They tried to get a big shot podcast deal with Spotify. That blew up. That went nowhere. They also had a $100 million Netflix collaboration. That went nowhere. Everything they've touched has been a flop, outside of when they trash their own family. That's the only time anybody cares about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. And they've basically done everything they can do on that front. They've trashed the family. They've tried to turn themselves into the victim. The media has soaked it up for all it's worth, and now they're over the story. There's nothing more to say. So when your brand has become trashing your own family, and you've trashed them to the point of not being able to trash anything else, then guess what? You're useless. The brand that you built had an expiration date to it. And now, by the way, the wife that Prince Harry chose, who we all could have told him after 5 minutes of sitting down with the guy that this was going to be a mistake, now she's looking for something else. Gosh, I can't believe it.
Talk about a bombshell.
I mean, this is the least surprising story of the weekend, John.
Seems she misinterpreted or misunderstood the stiff upper lip of the British, because you can't have a beef when the other side doesn't fire back, right?
Well, that's true as well.
See, so they've just keep their mouth shut. She's got nothing to say. She's just yelling at herself in the echo chamber.
Yeah, she's like Homer Simpson, man yells at cloud with the fist in the air. Hey,
Yeah,
yell back at me, cloud. No, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Underestimated was the word I was fumbling for.
Well, like reality TV, you try to create the drama and it takes two to tango.
Yeah. Yep.
That's how you keep the storyline going. But the royal family is kind of like, screw you. We're not even responding to this. So there's no more material. There's no more episodes to record, so to speak, if they're not firing back at you. That's what makes reality TV reality TV. Each side has to keep sniping at the other. In this case, it's Meghan Markle and Prince Harry yelling at the clouds, and the clouds not yelling back. And now their whole relationship apparently is in shambles. So I have no sympathy for Prince Harry. None. I mean, the guy blindly followed his wife, who had, all the makings of in this for the fame and the fortune. I know that she was an actress and she had her own career, and every time I turn on my Netflix, it tells me to watch Suits with Meghan Markle. I'm not doing it. I don't have any interest. But for crying out loud, Harry, here's the thing. Usually the bad boy has some street smarts to him. That's typically how it always goes, the cliche. The bad boy maybe wasn't great in school but had street smarts. Prince Harry doesn't have any street smarts to him. That's a bad combo. When you're the bad boy and you're kind of a dumbass, that's not the place that you want to be in life. And that's the only conclusion I can come to with Prince Harry, is that he tries to be the bad boy, but he also is never going to be confused with a Mensa member. That's a tough spot to be. Oh, my goodness. So good job. Kansas City Star just pulled this from In Touch Weekly, but it was on the homepage of the Kansas City Star yesterday, for crying out loud. I couldn't believe it. I was like, but you know what? I'll take it. It's better than half the crap they put up on that homepage. Jeez. 913-408-7710. That is also the text line here on KCMO Talk Radio, 710 AM and 103.7 FM. The article goes on the note here. The source claiming there's no doubt they've been living separate lives. That's bad news for Harry, who left his entire life behind in the UK for his soulmates. Yeah, way to go, Harry. All he really has is Meghan. It would be devastating to lose her too, says the source, adding the Prince, 38, is desperate to repair the damage. He's been begging her for a second chance to prove to her this whole thing can work. She's taking matters into her own hands and focusing on her Hollywood comeback. My goodness. And they don't have any kids, right? There's no kids there. She's 42. He's 38. I mean, that should tell you a lot about what the goals are of individuals. And Meghan Markle, I mean, she's already, it sounds like, is moving on to me. Gosh, unbelievable. Coming up on KCMO, the best article I read over the weekend on the political front. And it's about how everybody is tired of politics. It was written by somebody who predicted before many the Trump movement back in 2016. This person's been a guest on this show before. It is an outstanding article. I will share some of the highlights with you coming up next on KCMO Talk Radio. I stand corrected. Many of you noting on the text line, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle do have a couple of kids. But as far as I'm concerned, that makes it even worse. She appears to be maybe of the attitude of, someone else will raise the kids. What's the point in staying married? It'll be fine. Prince Harry, if they don't make it and he ends up going back to the UK, I mean, poor guy's going to be halfway around the world from his own children? I mean, I guess he could have a place in L.A. or whatever, but geez, what a mess. What an absolute mess. Not the sharpest tool in the shed, that Prince Harry. If I sat down with the guy for 5 minutes all those years ago, I would have whacked some sense into him, but nobody asked me to do that, so here we are. Now, you may remember the name Selena Zito. Does that name ring a bell to you? She became, I don't want to say famous, but she became a notable figure back in 2016 when she was writing for the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review. And she was writing a lot of pieces back in 2016 about the silent Trump voter, about how Donald Trump was going to turn all these former Democrats into Trump voters in places like Pennsylvania and Ohio and Wisconsin and kind of that upper Midwest area. And she wrote a lot about this. And it was anecdotal in nature, but she turned out to be right. And then she started writing syndicated stuff for Fox News, the New York Post, places like that, because she was getting mocked. I mean, her famous article from 2016 was Taking Trump Seriously, Not Literally. That was from September of 2016. And she got mocked by fellow reporters, social media trolls. People made fun of her left and right. Well, it turns out she was spot on with her analysis. So she wrote this piece over the weekend, and the headline was, Everyone's Tired of Politics. She writes here, and I don't usually read this much of an article, but I really think it's that good of an article, and I'm going to put it up on my Twitter and Facebook pages after the top of the hour. She writes here in part, in a recent drive along the back roads of our country, I heard something from people at every stop. A sentiment that runs counter to the national media's assumption that everyone is consumed by presidential politics. She says it's hard to find a day since 2020 that national news has not led with something about former President Donald Trump or President Joe Biden. Same goes for social media. She goes on to say, in my recent backroads drive, a trip that included Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Colorado, Nebraska, Iowa, Michigan, and Wisconsin, and also last week here in western Pennsylvania. In the hour-and-a-half drive from my driveway to the rodeo parking lot through 3 counties that turned out heavily in support of the former president in 2020, there was a marked absence of Trump signs and Trump flags. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean people along that drive have stopped supporting him. It does mean, she writes, that something has shifted, that their identity is no longer connected to him with the intensity that it once was. At the rodeo, which is always kicked off with a prayer, the Pledge of Allegiance, and the national anthem, there was not a Make America Great hat in view, nor was there any paraphernalia for Biden or any of the other dozen or so candidates running for president. Selena Zito adds here, when I asked people in the stands what was the utmost on their minds right now, the first answer was almost always inflation and economic concerns. The second tended to be more personal concerns, such as their children's education or the rise of fentanyl use in local communities. Few even mentioned politics or the presidential election. If I raised it, she wrote, they often said they felt it never ended for nearly 3 years. Chris, who declined to give his last name, said he is a reliable voter who works in management in the trades, had at one time voted for Trump, and often found himself glued to cable news before 2020. Quote, I stayed with that habit until the elections last November, but since that election, I haven't turned cable news on at all, stopped following social media posts, and have stayed focused only on reading the local paper, he said. His local paper is the Butler Eagle. I bring this up because some of you might hear that from Selena Zito in that article that she wrote that I'll post up here on social media and say, well, that stuff is politics. Maybe the inflation stuff is. Maybe you can argue the fentanyl obviously ties to the southern border. But a lot of the concerns, kids' educations, fentanyl use here in communities, things like that, yes, there's a federal element to it. But it's not obsessing over presidential politics to try to fix it. And the weariness that is out there, I mean, that's one of the reasons that we do this show the way we do it, right? I mean, we're going to focus on the things happening here in Kansas City first and foremost because, one, you can't get a lot of the local news from your local newspapers anymore, especially here in town, sad to say. If you do get it, it's opinion-based pieces that have an incredible leftward lean to them. And then also, there is such a dearth of local information now in media that if you can provide it, and if you can opine on it, and if you can have conversations on it, well, you're going to be ahead of the game. And that's what we try to do here on KCMO. And I hear a lot of those same things from many of you. Not that we're not going to cover the presidential election or anything like that. Obviously, we're going to do it. But there's absolutely a weariness that is set in. And if you go to your water cooler on a regular basis, I don't believe that the obsessions or the biggest concerns are Donald Trump and Joe Biden. In fact, I believe most people are exhausted by both men for different reasons, potentially, depending on who you're talking to and what their political preferences are. But I think that people are exhausted by both of these guys. And that line by that individual saying it feels like it never ended from 3 years ago, that is so true in so many ways. It does feel like it's never ended. I mean, last Wednesday, it was our anniversary, our 9-year anniversary. So Kate and I sat on the porch, and I said to her, I cannot believe that we are 15 months away. This was after the kids went to bed, so don't worry, we're not leaving them inside to fend for themselves while we sit on the porch and, talk about the world. But we both said, I cannot believe we're about to do this again, meaning go through another 12 to 15 months of insane presidential politics, because it does feel like it never ended. And the fact that people are weary of it, it's not good for democracy because you want people engaged. But the takeaway is that people are weary of their options. And they're realizing, I believe, rightfully so, that so much of their day-to-day lives are not what cable news wants it to be. The good, the bad, the ugly is not often driven by who's in the White House. And that's something that we've talked about for a very long time on this show. It's more likely to be involved with your local city councilman than it is who's in the White House. 722. Welcome in on KCMO Talk Radio. So you got Clay County, politician up there, openly mocking the East Village site. This is getting good down the home stretch. We are here in the, I guess we could call this decision month, 2023. That's like what CNN or Fox would call it, as we await the Royals' decision on the East Village or North Kansas City. We could have some big, every time we talk about this topic over the next couple of weeks until a decision comes down, we could have John put together some dramatic intro. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, Decision Desk 2023. Will the Royals go north or stay in Jackson County?
The beef in Cowtown.
Yeah. That's pretty good. So Jason Withington is a Clay County commissioner. And he told, he threw some shade at the East Village. In this interview to John Ketz of Fox 4, take a listen to what he had to say.
We're not going to be like the East Village and sit vacant for 20 years hoping the Royals come. With or without the Royals, North Kansas City is going to grow, and I think there's some business people who see the potential in North Kansas City developing and Clay County continuing to be one of the fastest growing counties in the state.
Okay, look at that. We're not just going to sit here and be vacant for 20 years hoping the Royals come, said Clay County Commissioner Jason Withington. Oh, man, he went after him right there. Woo, boy, oh, boy. That one's going to tweak some folks south of the river, I would say. And the point is this, and I've heard this from people up north as well. Like, yes, they want the Royals, obviously. They think that site would be outstanding for the Royals, and I don't think they're wrong. But on top of that, they believe that area is going to be developed, whether the Royals go there or not. They think that that site right there, kind of due south of Armour Road, is going to be a hotbed of future development in the region. I mean, you know, you have Mark's friend who had, what was that restaurant or that location that they got priced out of there, Mark?
Sweet Emotion.
What
ice
is it?
Ice cream shop.
Oh, ice cream shop. Yeah, their rent doubled. So they're going to have to move somewhere else. So that whole area is blowing up. And it's getting a lot of attention. Now, the Royals are going to take it from 0 to 60 very quickly. But the people up there and the politicians firmly believe that that part of town is ripe for development and is going to grow no matter what happens with the Royals. And I don't know if you can say the same thing about the East Village. Like, if the Royals don't pick the East Village, what's going to go there? I don't see that area changing if the Royals don't pick the East Village. I mean, God bless them. You got homeless shelters in the area. City Union Missions right down the street. They do great work, but, like, let's just be honest. What else is going to go there? Who's going to invest tens, hundreds of millions of dollars in the East Village if the Royals don't end up going there? I don't know. And I haven't heard anybody south the river suggest that, hey, if we don't get the Royals, don't worry, we got some backup plans. It's going to be great. I don't hear a lot of that from people south of the river, but I hear a lot from people north of the river basically saying, yes, we want the Royals. We really hope they pick us. But if they don't, this place is going to be booming no matter what. Now, maybe they're hedging their bets a little bit, but still, I think they got a case to make there, far more than what you're seeing right now in the East Village. So I don't think it's a wrong comment to make, but you've got public shade now being thrown between the North and the South, and I don't think that's all that surprising, to be honest. And as you talk about the Royals' decision-making here, let's be clear as well. The fact that another prominent shooting happens on the plaza in a prominent entertainment district is horrible news once again for the Royals potentially staying in Jackson County. This crime issue, the Royals are never going to admit it. Like, I hope to have on John Sherman after he makes his decision. We've been trying to get him on for a while, but I understand they want to keep things quiet right now. But I imagine we'll talk to him after the decision is made. And I will ask him how much crime played a role in his decision if he ultimately goes up north. Or even if he stays in Jackson County, I might ask it. And I know we're not going to get a clear answer on it. Like, I know he's not going to say, yeah, Pete, we decided to go up to North Kansas City because, geez, I mean, the crime in Kansas City, Missouri proper is out of control. I can't have my fans, grabbing their bulletproof vests before they leave the house to go to the ballpark. I can't have that. He's not going to say it. Now, I can say it, but he can't say it. So I'm not expecting some answer like that. But it would be naive to think the Royals, who want to invest $1 billion of their own money and then another $1 billion aren't looking at the crime rate, aren't seeing, once again, prominent shootings happening in entertainment districts, or people getting murdered, by the way, in the place that they want to put the ballpark on the East Village, and saying, is that the best place to invest a couple $1 billion right now? Are we going to buy into the long-term vision of the political leaders in charge of this county and this city? They will never say it publicly, but they're not dumb enough to not consider it. 15 minutes until Tirade Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. It is great to be here on KCMO Talk Radio. So, Labor Day yesterday in the books, the unofficial end of summer, of course. But do people know what Labor Day even is? Specifically, Gen Zers, our youthful generation. Well, this is always fun. When Fox News or anybody does a little man on the street, you know, you go around, you ask people what they know about something. It didn't go well in New York City over the weekend, where Fox News had a roaming reporter asking Gen Zers what exactly Labor Day was about. What exactly Labor Day is supposed to be celebrating. Well, let's take a listen to how that went for Fox News on the streets of New York City over the weekend.
Day off work? I have no more info than that.
No, I really don't. I actually don't know.
I actually don't know why we celebrate Labor Day.
Like, as more people have entered the workforce, the rights of those workers have kind of decreased a little bit, like sparking with, like, mass influx into cities to kind of serve under, like, not necessarily good conditions. So I think it just kind of starts like a very non-denominational day to celebrate the rights of those workers.
You should never wear white after Labor Day.
I don't know.
I want to say it was labor reforms in the workplace, because a lot of the jobs we have today is because of those reforms.
Something to do with America.
No idea.
Celebrate the struggle and everything the workers do to contribute to the country being so great.
We as Americans celebrate Labor Day because if we didn't work, we wouldn't have the money to pay for all of this. It's why we live, why we breathe, why we walk, why we experience culture as it is.
All right, bunch of geniuses there on the streets of New York City. Fox News roaming man of the street interview for what is Labor Day. Of course, meant to recognize the American labor movement and the works and contributions of laborers to the development and the achievement of the United States. Now, of course, it's kind of been a rah-rah union thing. And as far as I can tell, we have a lot to be grateful for this Labor Day weekend because union membership rates continue to plummet in this country, which I think is outstanding. As someone who was once a member of a union, I was actually a member of the SAG-AFTRA union. Of course, they're on strike right now because, people on the acting side think they should be making more money because they might lose their jobs to AI. So I was a member of that hack union, and it sucked. Everything about it was just the worst. From the leadership to, the captains, as they call them, to the people in charge. I mean, it was completely worthless. Everybody likes to hide behind their unions instead of just, standing on their own 2 feet and being valuable based on who they are, not the strength of the union, power in numbers. It was one big scam. I will never be a part of that thing ever again. But I didn't have a choice, by the way. If you were working where I was for CBS Radio in New York at the time, you had to be a SAG-AFTRA member. You had to pay them. You had no choice. So that's why, Sean Hannity, when he talks about this stuff once in a while, he's a member of SAG-AFTRA. He has to be. If you're based there in New York working for the major companies, you've got to be a union member. And it's a hack operation. And you look right now, U.S. union membership was at 20% back in 1983. It is now at 10.1%. So that's good. That's a good thing for the American worker. There was a time when unions were valuable, right? When you had people working in conditions that were just inhumane, yes, the strength of unions had a purpose, had meaning. There was value in strength in numbers. But in 2023, that's come and gone. There's absolutely no point in them anymore. They had their moment. Yes, it was valuable. Yes, we credit them with, making sure the 5-day work week was a thing and workers aren't getting abused by the man and things like that. But nowadays, all they are bureaucracies that protect the most worthless workers in the entire operation. That's all they're good for.
More of lobbyists now, I think.
Well,
right?
That's true, too.
When you think of the teachers union and
yes.
different things, they're not necessarily in the interest of the consumer, more of the worker.
That is, yes. And you know what they have become as well? They're basically lobbying firms for the Democratic Party is what union has become. They are all Democratic-based. They all support Democratic politicians. It's more or less like money laundering for Democrats is what it is.
Well, it's interesting with the auto workers. We've been breaking our back. I'm like, you've been furloughed for what?
Well,
how many months in the last 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure how much backbreaking work's been conducted, but not the part where they put the chips in them because they got to roll those over to the airport parking lot to store those until they get everything.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out up there in Detroit with the union strike that they may be going on. We don't know if that's going to happen, but something to certainly keep an eye on. Something I was keeping an eye on over the weekend. Mark had his first big weekend of college football. So he had this big old parlay, Parlay Van Sickle in there, had a big weekend. He was trying to hit a 20-way parlay that would have won him, $250 on a $5 bet.
Yep.
You lost it, right?
Yeah, thanks to the Big 12.
Yeah,
no thanks.
The Big 12 blew it for you. Baylor lost to Texas State as a 28-point favorite. Who else blew it?
TCU to Colorado.
That's right.
And then Wyoming beat Texas Tech.
Oh, that's right. Oh, man, you had a rough weekend.
Was the Duke game in there?
Yeah, Duke beat Clemson last night, too big.
So you needed all the other teams, the favorites, to win outright.
Yep.
And it totally
16 out of 20.
Yeah, so you got 16 out. Yeah, you got to get 20 out of 20 on a parlay to make it work. But all right, well, Mark will have some good Chiefs bets for us, hopefully, coming up on Thursday.
I've been looking at it. I'm ready to go.
Can you believe it? The season's here, baby. Oh, my goodness. Woo! Woo, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. I just put up a funny Instagram story of my two girls, Claire and Chloe. I had them in Hy-Vee over the weekend. And, they got all the Chiefs gear. So they got those, those big fake chain necklaces.
Oh, yeah.
That they have. So I put one gold one and one red one on each of them in the shopping cart. And then I took a little photo and put a little video behind it. So I just put that up on the on my Instagram story. You can see it there at Pete Mundo. But yeah, I'm fired up for it. They're in their pajamas. I'm literally in Hy-Vee. They're in their pajamas, and I got the Chiefs necklaces around them that like rap stars wear. Except of course they're plastic and not actual gold. But it was entertaining if nothing else. So I'm hearing mixed things from some of you at Santa Caligon Days. I just had a caller on Tirade Tuesday bring up that they couldn't find the Frank White recall petition anywhere. Now, I know that there's people involved with the recall who want to go out there and want to say that, hey, we can't be everywhere at once. I get that. I understand that. But I don't know. I'd be standing at the front door. Like, yeah. Is there anyone less popular right now in the entire Kansas City metro than Frank White? Seriously. Who do you think, if you were to think about the Kansas City region as a whole right now, is there anybody less popular than Frank White? You might say is it Trump? Is it Biden? No, I don't think so. I mean, that would be 50-50. Like, Frank White, who's defending him outside of his kid who's running the KCATA at this point? Who?
Takes a lot to get booed at the Super Bowl party,
doesn't it? That's right.
Unfortunately.
And that was before this disaster with the taxes.
Well, it was on the heels of one, I think. Right?
Okay, let's go to Independence, where Cress is calling in. Hey, Cress, good morning.
Hey, Pete. Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing well. What's happening?
Hey, man, just letting your callers know that, yes, that petition was out at Santa Caligon. The Republican booth was in front of the Harry Truman statue on the square. And we did have a couple of people walking around. But They also have a chance to sign the petition this coming up weekend at the Grain Valley Festival and the following weekend out in Blue Springs. I'm not exactly sure where the booths are going to be at, but come look for us. We're going to have people walking around there as well.
Now, is this a bipartisan effort? Like Democrats are doing some of this, Republicans are doing some of this with the recall?
From what I understand, Democrats are doing the same thing, yes.
Okay. So, and then you guys at the end are going to pile together your signatures and try to move this
Everything's
thing forward.
going to get verified. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then would be on a ballot in Jackson County?
It should be, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now, there's a rumor going around saying that the legislature has to approve this recall, has to approve the petition, which is not true. They don't have to, because how would you redress your government if you have complaints against your government, if you have to go to the government to get it approved?
That's a good point.
Petition approved.
That's a good point. Okay, so you get the number of signatures you need, and it's something like, what, 40,000? It's a big number.
It's a big number, man, but I know we did close to 9,000 this past weekend, so it was pretty big. And then we're going to have some people this week also at Walmart and grocery stores in the metro area.
You got 8,000 to 9,000 already?
Bro, it was good. It was good. It was a good weekend.
Wow. Oh,
we had Democrats stopping by saying, yes, we will sign this.
I thought you were going to tell me you had like 800. You got 8,000.
No, it was good. It was a good number.
And that doesn't include whatever the Democrats have.
Correct.
Wow. Okay.
This thing actually is starting to get some legs.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for that insight there, Chris.
Yeah, man. You have a great week, and I hope to see all these callers and everybody else in the metro wanting to recall Frank White out in Grain Valley this weekend.
All right. Time and place again, real quick.
So it'll be the Grain Valley Festival this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and half a Sunday.
Okay. And then Blue Springs next weekend.
Correct.
All right. Good deal, man. Wow.
All right. We'll see you. Thanks.
Oh, wow.
Could have been 8,002, I guess. Right?
But yeah.
A little more mobility on those clipboards.
I am blown away by that. I was like, all right, they're going to get a few hundred this week. It's going to take, 6 months to get the number. But you got to strike while the iron's hot, And I'm telling you, sheesh.
I don't know if there's any confusion when he was talking about approving it by the county legislature. Of course, it has to be, verified on the signatures.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So that may be where confusion is on approval / verification.
But nothing involving the state. So that's good to know, nor should it involve the state. All right. Well, hey, that's encouraging. So for those of you that maybe didn't see him out there, you got to be optimistic about the fact that they got 8,000 signatures. So I hate to put it this way, but if you missed them, it might have been on you. They got 8,000 people to sign this petition to recall Frank White. Then that's pretty damn good. Woof. 913-408-7710. Hey, join us on KCMO Talk Radio. Oh, gosh. I mean, when's the last thing something was this bipartisan in the Kansas City area? Jackson County and the recall attempts against Frank White. You've got both parties working towards this right now. Now, how it plays out after that is going to be interesting. If the recall does move forward, right? And let's just skip ahead and just say, hey, there's this world where Frank White is no longer county executive. Then the fight's going to be, well, who's going to be the county executive? And I admittedly don't know how that process works top to bottom, but that is going to be fascinating if we actually get to that point. Because usually, remember the recall Quentin Lucas stuff? And I told you that was a total joke and a waste of time. Not that the people involved, weren't good people. There was a misconception when I ripped that whole recall and I said it was a waste of time and a waste of effort. It wasn't me knocking the individuals. There were people that I met through that process who were fine individuals. But it was a waste of time. This is not a waste of time. This is very different from the recall Quentin Lucas stuff. The Quentin stuff was all about masking and whatever else, and that was obviously a joke in hindsight. But you're talking about this boondoggle of property taxes that people are going through right now, people getting potentially priced out of their homes, that's next level. And that will resonate on both sides of the political aisle as it should. 913-408-7710. Welcome in. Hope your Tuesday morning is off to a great start. Happy unofficial start of fall, even though it's going to be 98 degrees today. Jeez. Now I got the band stuck in my head. Where's Nick Lachey when I need him? Whew. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. So stay cool. The heat's going to break tomorrow. So if you're going to be out at the game on Thursday, it's not going to be 1,000,000 degrees.
Give me just one night, una noche.
Yeah.
Is that's 98 degrees? Right?
I don't know. That might be deep in the repertoire there, Mark. I'm not totally sure. I can probably name 2 98 degrees hits. Maybe one, because nothing's coming to mind. Maybe 0. I don't know.